Y'all are watching Fight Feed. Today I'm going to be going through my UFC content creator pick tracker that is an update number 5 in this series. So as of today, we've actually gone through 62 different bouts that I've picked for, MMA Joey's picked for, MMA Guru's picked for, and Tracy MMA have all picked for. And with this update, we're going to go through the results of the UFC Fight Night Iowa card and then also give you an overall view of the current standings, who's in first place, who's in last place, and all of the in-between. To start off this analysis, we're going to look at UFC Fight Night Iowa standings, who had the best picks, who had the worst picks, and we'll also I'll give you guys a rundown as I'll go through the entire list, just showing who picked who within each fight. But without further ado, I want to give you guys the current update in terms of who did the best on the UFC Iowa card. The headline for this week is that I am the winner again, guys. Fight Feed had the best picks, 8-4 on this overall card, which I'm actually very happy about because as this card was unfolding, it was not looking too good, but I was actually pretty happy to see a few of my huge, underdog picks in this case ended up winning in their fights, so that was a huge deal for me. But taking a look at some of the other creators and their picks for this card, in second place, MMA Joey came in with 7 correct, 5 incorrect. Tracy MMA in third with 6 and 6. And then finally, our boy MMA Guru did pretty bad this week with 4 and 8. I got to say, guys, I've seen a lot of rhetoric, and I don't know. I feel like some of the content creators, when they think it's a bad card, it's generally tied to a card where they also had bad picks, but that's just my opinion. I definitely am going to feel a lot better about this card, probably because I did well on my picks. There's nothing better when you pick a certain fighter, especially if that fighter is not expected to win and they end up pulling it off. I think we all definitely have been there, and then we've also been there when we pick a certain fighter that gets mollywopped. So it just happens, and this sport's fucking crazy. You never know how it's gonna go down. I've been loving though, guys. Thank you for everyone who's been commenting, adding all of your picks. I really appreciate that. I love to see what you guys are thinking on your end in terms of your picks, and then also I always love to see you guys that are going out there for those big parlays. Keep that up and let me know what you guys are working towards in this next upcoming fight card. Okay, so that is the UFC Iowa standings. Now what I want to go through is the overall standings in this tracker. So as of right now, MMA Joey is still in first place. He's got 46 wins, 16 losses. So it's 46 out of 62. That's 74.19% correct. Second place, I was able to clear a decent gap between myself and MMA Guru, and given that he also had a bad week last week, I'm actually tied with him now for second place, which I'm very happy about. I'm hopeful that I can maybe catch up to MMA Joey this week, but he's got a decent lead right now on all of us at 46 wins. But both Guru and I are at 41 and 21, so 41 wins, 21 losses. 41 out of 62 is 66.13% correct. Guys, I have to say, given how MMA is a crazy sport, and the betting lines might suggest otherwise in certain fights, to have 66% correct is actually pretty decent. I don't know. It could be much better, but maybe I'm giving myself too many flowers here. But to get more than half of your picks correct in MMA is pretty difficult. Now, there are some fights that are give me's, but for instance, this last weekend, I think if you were a person who's not watching this sport regularly, you would probably go down the list of fighters. You'd pick, Petrovic to beat Juliana Miller. I was lucky that I picked Juliana Miller, because really that fight was pretty much a toss-up, but I picked her just off of this weird feeling I had that her scrappiness, her awkwardness would be able to somehow edge the fight in her favor, and it didn't happen. But guess what? Very lucky pick. So when you think of things like that, there's that fight, the D-Rod pick. A lot of people would pick Ponzinibbio just based off of the amount of finishes on his record, amount of UFC fights on his record. I pick D-Rod. Like sometimes I think you have to, when you're making picks, at least for me, I try to bring in some of those outlying factors, right, that might be hidden from the stats. And I think that the only way you can really do that is by being a fan of the sport. And, I actually, one thing that I have, I think, that might be different than others, I've always had a very good memory. So that helps me quite a bit. I think like I'll just catch on to certain things that I think maybe the average person might not remember. Just weird shit, like sometimes numbers, dates. But in this case, like with MMA, I always sometimes like hold on to where fighters train, and who they're training with. And like I've seen Ian Gary, D-Rod kind of mixing it up, and D-Rod's been in Ian Gary's corner for a couple fights. So I use that in my pick with D-Rod, knowing his boxing is very crispy, knowing that he has really only been finished by Ian Gary on the feet. I had a feeling that his work with Ian Gary would just make him a better striker and probably able to, if we're looking at a match like against Ponzinibbio, who's not much of a grappler, your striker for striker, they're both similar in age, similar size. I had to go D-Rod in that case. But look, it doesn't always work out that way, because technically when I saw Merab in the corner of Polyana Viana, I had a feeling like, should I have changed my pick? And then what do you know? Polyana got smoked and I had picked Jake Quellen. So it's like, it doesn't always amount to a win in your favor, but I think using some of that other knowledge that might not be in the stats can also help you in terms of making picks. But I'm not the greatest at this, as you guys can see, 66% correct. But finally, last place, Lucas Tracy MMA with 39.23 out of 62. It's 62.90%. Lucas is right there though. So like Guru and I are only up by 2 wins. So technically, like you could have, I could have a really bad week and someone else could have a really good week, and you just bring this up. For those of you who've been, tuned in and watching this, but then also for those of you that are new and providing input, I want to say thank you guys for providing your input in terms of which creators should be part of this. I would like to ask you guys as fans, I started this off, a while back now. We're 62 fights in. And because there are so many other creators that people are mentioning, I wanted to, put this out there for you guys to answer. In terms of a video and content being entertaining to you, would you rather I keep going with this set of creators? And I was thinking of going maybe to 100 fights if we can get it clean. Because, every week there's a different amount of fights on each card. I'm hopeful that, in 2 or 3 weeks, we should make that 100 fight mark. What I can do is end this series with these current creators at 100, and then I could start a new series that's following different creators, or I could just do a new series that would include kind of the gamut of creators, right? So including some of the ones that you guys have commented in my comments. It'll be a lot more work for me, but I can definitely do it. Getting them added, and then from there just do kind of like an ongoing tracker. My goal would be to have something that I can just track for like over the course of time, so we can actually gather enough data to see how well these creators are picking over a longer period of time. But then I also have thoughts of like maybe doing like a championship style bracket where it's like, okay, this creator versus this creator on this card, whoever picks moves on. There's a lot of options, guys. So I know you guys have been recommending different creators to do. I would also love your recommendations on what type of style would be entertaining for you as a viewer, and make you want to come back and watch this. And then we can also, I want to get this set up so that I'm posting these videos at a certain time, probably every Monday night. I would post these kind of following the previous week's card. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. To end this video, guys, I'm just going to quickly go through the picks from last week's card, just to show you where we might have chosen different and where those picks may have paid dividends or been a negative impact on their overall record. So looking at the total fight card here, we had the fight between Miller and Petrovic. In this fight, I picked Miller. As I mentioned, I've already made several pieces. So I mentioned that I chose Miller. She ended up getting the W, so that was a great start for me. Very happy about that one. Guru picked Petro, which I can't fault. So did MMA Joey. And it looks like Lucas Tracy didn't pick Petro. So unfortunately for him, he just gets an L. And I don't, anyone that's a fan of Lucas Tracy, I'm not being unfair when I did this, because in a previous card, which I think was the Austin Hubbard Medeiros card, I did not pick anybody for that fight, and I got an L for that on my record. So unfortunately, I just, it's easier for me to do things that way, because I don't want to have to track, like, okay, now Lucas only has a total of 61 fights. Like, it's too difficult when I'm tracking so many different creators. But I'm just giving you guys that note there. Like, if these creators don't end up making a pick, or I'm not able to find their pick, let's say maybe they make a pick the day before, I can always, adjust. But I feel like the goal of this tracker is to be like their initial thoughts on the fights, who they think is going to win. Because to me, it's not fair if, a creator, even if I did this, right? If I posted Monday, but then Friday I have these different feelings and I make changes, I feel like, yeah, it's still before the fights, but I feel like those are informed decisions based on like things happening that week that, I don't know, it's just not as clean. Like when you're doing your initial analysis that's kind of based on statistics, and then you can use background knowledge, but I'm talking about like, what if a fighter's, the during fight week, they are showing like they've got a fucking staph infection, right? That's not fair for me to go back in and change my picks, is how I feel. So that's why it is this way. Anyways, going on to the next fight, we've got Dontel Mays versus Thomas Peterson. And in this fight, myself, Guru, and Tracy all picked Dontel, which was a big fat L. Horrible pick there for all of us. But I think we all had different reasonings for picking Dontel. My big reasoning was that Thomas Peterson got KO'd in February by Gaziv, and I thought that KO and that damage he took, it was a bad KO. I'm like, Dontel is a big guy. He should be able to catch this dude and hurt him. He didn't do shit to him. MMA Joey got that one right with Thomas Peterson. Next fight, Bolaños. We all picked Bolaños, and it was a big fat L. So we all started off pretty poorly here on this card. Next fight on the card, Robertson versus Rodriguez. So Guru was in a weird spot here. He was kind of in the spot I was in with Juliana Miller, where he could get that right and be like the sole winner there, or, take the gamble and then get it wrong. Whereas, Fight Feed, Lucas Tracy, MMA Joey, we all picked Robertson. I can see where Guru was coming from in his pick, because Rodriguez has kind of been this woman to knock people off the top, especially those that are prospects coming up. Like she dispatched of Amanda Hebas back in the day when she was on a little bit of a run, so I can understand it. The next fight on the card, Bekoya versus Loader. Looks like Lucas Tracy went with Loader, so he was in that same situation here, whereas the three of us, Fight Feed, Guru, Joey, all picked Bekoyev. My big reasoning for picking Bekoyev was just he is a very solid record, very solid all-around game, but he's also knocked off a couple other grapplers in the middleweight division. So I thought Loader is going to either get him to the ground and just hold him there. I didn't think that Loader really had the submission chops anyways, but I thought if anything, he would get him to the ground and hold him there. But my big thing is that Bekoyev is able to knock out Zachary Reese and just has shown good defensive grappling. So I didn't think that Loader would be able to get it off, and he wasn't. But Loader had a great fight, though. Anyways, next fight on the card. This is another one where I took that risk. I chose Stevens. I think I picked Stevens off of knowing that he was going in with a certain amount of intensity, knowing that he wanted to get the win as much as he could, and knowing that he has the power to do so. He did show that power off in round two, especially. Like he clipped Jones a few times, but Jones ultimately outclassed him, guys. It was a great fight, but these guys all picked Jones, and it was a good pick. I think I was tied up a little emotionally and wanted to pick Stevens, so sometimes that happens. Next fight on the card, we had City versus Smotherman. I thought that Siri City was just a better fighter. Showing a great all-around game, great striking, very clean win in my opinion here. Guru and Joey picked Smotherman. Lucas Tracy and myself both picked City. Next fight on the card, Montel Jackson I believe we all chose Montel Jackson, so that was a good win, and very good decision on our parts. It was definitely a slower fight, but I think Jackson had that fight from the get-go. He did land those heavy shots in round 3 that almost put Marcos out, but regardless, clean win from Jackson. The next fight on the card, so this one is one with it paid off for me. So I picked D-Rod, everyone else picked Ponzinibbio. Now the odds in this fight were basically a pick 'em, so it wasn't suggesting that either fighter was kind of in the running to get the win, if you will. But my big thing was that D-Rod, like I said before, training with Ian Gary, showing that crispy boxing. I just had a feeling he was going to be able to, if anything, get a decision win over Ponzinibbio just based off that. But he got a finish, which was huge. The other guys chose Ponzinibbio, which I can understand. He's more of a finisher on the feet. But I'm very happy with my pick. D-Rod looked fan-fucking-tastic. The next fight on the card, this is one of the biggest fights on the card, guys. We had DeRitter versus Nickel. And Lucas Tracy and myself both picked DeRitter to get the win here. Guru and Joey picked Nickel. A lot of people online, guys, that were picking Nickel to win this fight. And I just had a feeling that DeRitter was going to be too big. He had too much experience. He also has a game where Nickel's wrestling is no longer this like apex style, if you will. Like it was no longer going to be the bigger or better style in this case, because although he could maybe get takedowns from the wrestling, DeRitter is a guy with lots of jiu-jitsu chops, and he was going to make it a fight and make it scrappy from the start anywhere the fight went. I did not expect the clinch game to be so heavy here, but I know DeRitter has a great clinch game, but I just love the way he was able to use that and expose a game, that side of Bo's game. And I think Bo's going to be eating some shit now, from the fan base. He already has been, but he's going to be eating more because he said he was going to beat Khamzat and all these other fighters. So, but you know what? He's still young and he's got a lot of time to get better and do his thing. Final fight on the card, Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo. We all picked Sandhagen and we all got that one correct. So like I said, again, that is how we got to those individual records: 8-4 for myself, 4-8 for Guru, 6-6 for Tracy, and 7-5 for MMA Joey. Thank you guys so much for watching this update of my MMA Creators Pick Tracker. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like. Drop your comments below on your thoughts of how we should continue doing this tracker, any other creators you want to include. And then finally, if you're not, make sure you subscribe to Fite Feed so you can stay on top of all of the MMA content that I will be posting. Turn on notifications so you can be in the loop on when I post my next tracker update in that series, or also when I do my full card predictions and recaps. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you on the next one.